to strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL SuperCoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Mattrix, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys, and welcome back to the Insight NRL Show, our very first live for 2025 or season 2025. Thanks for the comment, Wayno. We are a little bit late. Apologies. We're just getting the last of the scores done so that we can go through them with you all. But thanks for watching and thanks for jumping in. Matty, thanks for joining me, mate, as always. You might have to carry a bit more of the conversation due to my croaky voice, but how have you been? How's your weekend?
I personally like your husky voice. I find it quite soothing, actually.
Okay.
My weekend's been good. Topped off with a bit of work, but obviously being out in Toowoomba, I went to the Broncos-Titans game today, which, I think we got some questions answered in some of these games this weekend, which I was waiting for because I didn't get much. To be completely honest, you would notice I didn't turn up to the first week of trials recap, but actually didn't get too much out of the first week of trials. It was just about getting some names out there like Redcliffe. The lost to the Capras in that first week, but look, this week we started to see at least a lot of rotation players playing 20 minutes, playing 40 minutes. So take some of it with a grain of salt, I think. But there's a lot that can be taken from this week.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard. Week one of trials is like a bit of a cobweb buster, really, isn't it? It's like, you give a few of the young guys a run. A couple of teams might play it maybe half strength, but it's hard to take much from round one. But the round two of trials, week two of trials, sometimes teams go into week three and just play their, reserve grade team, knowing that they've seen enough from week two. And I think that last game that we just watched there, specifically for the Dragons, I think we can take a lot from that, knowing what their full strength team is going to look like. But we will tackle every single game. We'll look at the All-Star game as well in addition to that. So we've got 9 games to get through today, but it will be a bit shorter. We won't be talking about every player. We'll do our best to get through and give you the relevant info on the SuperCoach relevant players. We won't be talking about anybody that won't be featuring for these guys in their best 17. But Matty Sherwood's in the chat. Any news on the Whisperer's super utility performance today? He did play in the Mark Hughes Foundation game, I think it was, with a few of the other guys. SC Experience was playing as well, Brandon Savage. He did it. Did Josh do a hammy in like the first couple of minutes, kicking a bomb?
Yeah, I think he was going to play in the centers or the second row or something. But anyway, then kicked a bomb, did a hammy. He said in our group chat that you'd hate to be a tube of deep heat around him today. So, take what you get.
Whisperer's at SC value. Probably, I mean, he put a little player card up for himself when he was promoting this game. And I think he put him down as like a 232K front row forward, second row forward dual. So, think Charlie, not even Charlie Geimer. Who's a dual player at that price? Not many.
Yeah, Kobe Hetherington.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, yeah, I mean, look, if you can call yourself Kobe Hetherington, you're doing okay. You're doing all right.
I don't know. He's looking slim. I was thinking second row forward. Second
wing
row
dual.
forward, center wing. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like a budget Dylan Lucas.
Yeah, fuck, you're doing all right if you're calling yourself a budget Dylan Lucas. I'd be happy with that. But we've got plenty to talk about, guys. Thanks to Benny G. We have been training the house down. We've been doing all right. I've been training so hard that my vocal cords aren't keeping up. So hopefully I survive the live tonight. Guys, plenty to talk about, plenty to go through. But today's show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. You can go to thestandardsqueeze.com. You can use the promo code IFS2025 as the new code. Get yourself 15% off everything in store there. And if you're lucky enough throughout the season and you haven't, well, first of all, you need to join the Unlimited League as well, because the Standard Squeeze sponsor the Unlimited League. 211518 is the code. You can jump on in there. You can take us on. And, Mattrix might do a little 30 mil swig. unless he's playing basketball on a Tuesday. That's pretty much the only time we don't get piss out of him, unfortunately. But he's done all right
on Tuesdays.
Yeah. And after you do your Strava run on a Sunday morning. So that's pretty much where it ends.
Yeah, wash it down with a beer, though.
Of course. Guys, plenty to talk through. So let's rip in and shout out to Josh for doing these stats and these scores. I mean, you can access them at Fox Sports on their website, but Josh puts them into a beautiful little graphic for us to go through every single time, which is lovely of him. So we'll definitely utilize that, take advantage of that. You'll see him on the screen if you're listening to us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on audio, Apple, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to us. You might want to pop over to YouTube if you want the visual or you're a visual learner. Matty, the first game, mate, the Sharks put 40 onto the Canberra Raiders. They scored 10. But in saying that, the Canberra Raiders pulled their starters after about 20 to 25 minutes in this game. So it looked like Ricky saw enough in the first 20 minutes to go, yeah, cool, that'll do us.
Yeah, look, I think so. It's hard. Like, I even saw in the Titans game today, they started pulling their starters relatively early, but I don't think it was seeing enough either. I think it was maybe, we don't want to, show our hand too early either. And look, if they're going to get pumped, that's no good for the starters anyway. But I suppose what we can take from it from Canberra, I don't think we'll be seeing them score a lot of high scores, which makes them a little bit more NRL fantasy relevant than it is SuperCoach relevant. So I'm going to be staying away from basically a lot of these guys unless I can get somebody that I really like in the middle of the field or a cheap hooker or somebody that's going to be doing a lot of tackling, a lot of defense, and a lot of that work at the other end, which doesn't always get rewarded on the SuperCoach front.
Yeah, spot on. I guess from a SuperCoach relevant standpoint, the names we were looking at for the Raiders specifically, Savelio Tamale was one of the guys that we were really hoping was going to stand up, put his hand up in this game. He scored 14 SuperCoach points. He played the first half. I mean, what are you taking from that? Do we think that he's going to jag this wing spot, considering that there's every chance that Hopewadi probably starts at centre? Obviously, he won't be going to Vegas, though, Matty, which creates that question mark of whether we see Tamale come round 2 or whether we get stuck on Tamale, round 1 player, round 2 out of the team, never seen again.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried of, who was it last year? Like a Richard Kenner or somebody like that, where like maybe he's the hero of Vegas. Maybe he's somebody there that's going to be at Vegas. But I do think once Hopewadi comes in, he's the guy that makes way. I think he sort of had to do something pretty special in these trials, and he'll get one more opportunity next week, maybe. But I think maybe that's just to solidify his spot for round 1 until, as a bit of a keeping Hopewadi's seat warm. I am cooling on Tamale. He was in my team, but yeah, I'm struggling to see an outcome that's going to end well.
Yeah, I think there's a bit too much risk for me with Tamale now. Just, if he came out and he lit it up for the Raiders in this game and took his opportunity by the balls, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But for me, I'm a little bit worried now. Obviously, we'll see what happens round 1, but the risk there is that Hopewadi comes in and just takes his spot round 2. But there could also be every chance we see Tamale on the wing and Hopewadi at centre, and then that kind of lines up well, and we see maybe Seb Chris out of favour, which has been rumoured floating around that maybe he will drop out. Ricky hasn't been opposed to dropping him in the past. So, yeah, I guess there's some movement to happen in this back line, and we know what Ricky's like. He likes to shuffle things around, which is a big concern when you're buying any of the Raiders at all. So, speaking of concern, Matty Nicholson, pretty well owned and popular in SuperCoach circles, Josh's love child, 27 SuperCoach points in this game. I mean, we think that Zach Hosking's probably going to come in and start naturally, which means that Nicholson will probably start off the bench, which means it's a no-go for me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if he was 200K, I have probably seen enough of Matty Nicholson. But what is he, 355K? Pretty similar to, say, a Smithies or somebody like that from last year. I kind of see he's feeling it. He's feeling. I hope he's feeling okay, but he's ceiling at late 400s. And that's just making me think it's a no-go as well. Like, I find I'm saying no to a lot of these cheapies now, which are going to cause their own problems. Like, I maybe can't go that 3 fullback line that I was planning, or maybe I can't, have a guy like Dylan Lucas who I really want, or, spend up for a Tino. Maybe I've got to go back to my own strategies with front row forwards. I just find from looking at a lot of these games that, that cheapie's not available. I don't think I'll go him. Matty Nicholson at 355K. If I thought that he had a 50-minute role, I could roll the dice on him, a 45-minute role, but I just don't think it's going to be there once Hosking comes back. I just think Hosking's better.
I think Hosking's better as well. I put a post up. And in games where Hosking has played 80 minutes, he averages, I think it's close to 75 points per game. So, look, obviously that's not sustainable. I'm not expecting him to come out and have a Eli Katoa type season. But in saying that, Ricky loves him as well. And I think that he's going to be the starting right edge back rower off Fogarty's hip. So, for me, yeah, look, it's too much risk with Nicholson, mate. Let's move on with the Sharks, mate. Nicho Hynes, 74 points, got a bit of a junk try, fell on one for a kick, one of those kind of kick, what do you call it, ricochet, I guess we can call it. Scored 74 points. So, you look at the scoring, you think, yeah, great. But did he pass the eye test for you? Because he looked okay, but he didn't really look like his, Nicho Hynes best for me.
So I started hitting panic stations after he kicked the first one and didn't go back to kick the second one. And I hate that my opinion's jaded from this one, but apparently had an adductor strain and then didn't kick after that. Look, I like his ticket to keep playing and everything like that, but he is at a good price, I think, but I just can't go there. There's so many question marks around Trindle. If Trindle sort of took a back seat to Nicho in this one, I'd be stoked. But take out that junk try and they kind of shared the work. I want my 700K halfback to be the man. I want him, Jerome Hughes without Cam Munster beside him. I want him Cleary with Jack Cogger beside him. I don't think Nicho Hynes has done enough in the preseason to work his way into Mattrix Reloaded.
It's tough, isn't it? Because we're talking about, when he's on, one of the best players in the game in SuperCoach. But for me, yes, another niggle. We talked, I reckon it's probably 3 seasons straight now that he's come into the season with a niggle of some sort. It was the calf 2 years ago where he came in and then round 4, he scored 180 in his first game back. Last year, he carried multiple niggles, multiple injuries, and now this year he's coming into another season with an injury. So, for me, I'm a little bit worried. So much so that I don't want to go and spend 735K on a halfback when I've already got Nathan Cleary, and there's enough risk involved with Nathan Cleary, personally. Especially, he got through the contact the pose session today, news is, so he's been cleared for round 1 for Vegas, so no need to worry about him missing. He's in. But having both of those guys at that kind of price, when I'm spending $1.6 million on these two guys, I want to try and hedge my bets and make sure that I'm not risking, too many injuries across my squad. And I think Cleary and Nicho is a little bit too much for me. But Adam Fanua-Blake looked good, scored a try, did it pretty easy, 61, played limited minutes in this one as well, 706K for him. I mean, I think he's too expensive to start the season. I think you'd be silly to look anywhere else but Terrell May and Corey Horsburgh to start the season, but we haven't seen Horse yet in the preseason. So next week's Canberra Raiders game will be a very close watch, Matty. What are your thoughts very quickly on AFB, and did anybody else for the Sharks stand out in this one for you?
Yeah, I'm not too excited about AFB. But it's because of the price. If AFB was 500K, 100%, I'd just load up on him. And I think that he is one of the best front row forwards, but I do think he'll maybe get a few less minutes this year. He's great. Every time he plays, he is an attacking threat at front row forward. He's like playing a center wing with a base of 50. He's fantastic. But yeah, look, I just think he's too expensive at that price with too many question marks there. I was watching Stone Street. I think if he gets the opportunity, he'll be there. I started looking up some Stone Street stats once you start to hear rumors about Mulatalo maybe wanting out, but it looks like that's more of a next year thing, Mulatalo wanting to chase the bag and get more money. But look, I think any winger or centre in this team will score really well. So, yeah, basically as soon as you get somebody, a little bit cheap in this team, you load up. But there's nothing too exciting to look at. Like Dan Atkinson and Talakai are going to be these crazy good utilities. I think the Sharks could push for a premiership this year. I foresee another top 4 finish, and if the stars align and Nicho's head's in the right place, they could go all right. But I do hope that they play somebody else at fullback. Will Kennedy just hasn't done it for me in his 4-year career. So
no, I agree. I agree with you completely. I'd love to see Cade Dykes or even Liam Eisen get a crack at fullback. There was a lot of call for Nicho Hines to go back to the 1, but I don't think that's the long-term answer personally. But that is game 1, 40-10 the Sharks. Now that we've got game 2 here, Parramatta Eels did a pretty similar number on the Newcastle Knights, 44-18. This one ended. We'll start with the Knights, Matty. I mean, Greg Marju looked okay. 49. He did what we would expect him to do. He did score a try with that 49, only played a half of football, so you can't really expect too much more from him. Fletcher Sharp in the 6, though, is the big thing for me and the talking point. Do we think it's going to be a Sharp Cogger 6 and 7 partnership, or do we think that we're going to see the Tyson Gamble Fletcher Sharp combination to start the season? Because that's been the rumour up until now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. There's been talk of Will Price there as well. I don't know if Fletcher Sharp is good enough defensively to start the year at 5'8". He's dynamic, but he was so poor in defense. I would rather a Will Price or I think you need to play Fletcher Sharp. Honestly, maybe a Schiller or somebody like that makes way. But I think that you need to. I'd rather play Will Price or somebody like that than him there. Fletcher Sharp will score well, Supercoach wise. Maybe a bit like a Jaden Campbell at 5'8". But yeah, I don't know if he can sustain being there for first grade just because of how poor he is defensively.
Yeah, it's a bit of the Jaden Campbell syndrome, we'll call it, I guess, from last year, where you'd get the right edge second rower just lining Jaden Campbell up defensively every single time they ran the ball at him. And shout out to Josh with a little bit of a Kelma Tuolangi shout out here where, Kelma is sponsored by the Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. So, he deserves a shout out in itself, but we'll talk about him soon. I think it's probably going to be Sharp and Cogger. I think Cogger is very necessary in that halfback role. But look, we'll see what Adam O'Brien does moving forward. And obviously they didn't have Dylan Lucas, they didn't have Ponga. They were playing in the Indigenous All Stars game, so there's still a few pieces left to see how they all work together. But for the most part, it's for me a little bit of I wouldn't call it panic stations, but there are concerns there for the Knights that they end up being a bottom 4 team this year. So they do have a nice draw, and everybody's chasing this nice draw. But what if they're just not good? That's a concern in itself. Yeah,
I know, and you can chase a nice Knights draw. Say that 10 times faster. But I think they'll lose some games. But I think it will be 34-40. I think it'll be 28 to 39. Maybe a little cheeky halftime field goal. I think sometimes that they will just score a lot of points but let in a lot of points. I don't know. I like their forward pack defensively. Look, Ponga just changed that whole team. It's hard to imagine how the Knights are going to play without watching Ponga play for them. So, yeah, I think as soon as Ponga goes down, just start betting against them with everything that you've got on the house, because he is the heart and soul at Newcastle.
There's a bit of chat here from Josh and Jamie Camilleri in the chat talking about Phoenix Crossland potentially playing 80 minutes for the Knights. If he does, is there any temptation there? It's been pretty well publicised that Jaden Brayley's been relegated a little bit to reserves and kind of not really doing as much in the first grade squad at the moment, considering he's just been the captain of the squad the last couple of years and now he's been relegated to the 2s. Yeah, there's not really anyone else. Matt Arthur isn't ready. So it's probably going to be Phoenix Crossland playing in the 9. Is there a reality where we can pick him at 9 and he gets decent minutes?
Yeah, this is what I think of that.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, Matty's walked off for those audio listeners, so that's that's great and in typical Mattrix style. Eels, plenty of talking points in this one. Dylan Brown was fantastic. His base was great. There's no question mark that he will be in the top 3 5/8s this year. We have different feelings about Dylan Brown moving forward. I think you'll see our draft board that releases late next week. So you'll see where we rate him. I think he's higher than Mattrix thinks, but we'll see. We'll see how that ends up at the season. But Brendan Hands, mate, didn't do much, and we've been pushing the Brendan Hands agenda for a very long time through the preseason, pretty much all preseason. Has that ended now? Do you think the Brendan Hands agenda has died?
Oh, I'm not the guy. I probably wasn't thinking about going there anyway. But I know you and Josh liked him, but the appeal was an 80-minute hooker. So I think still, if he's an 80-minute hooker, he can still score well. Like, we've got some more question marks about your Sandon Smiths, and we're going to talk about Pete Mamazella later. Like, maybe there's not good cheap hookers, which means the whole 3 fullback thing falls to pieces or something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, you can, if he plays 80 minutes, he is a chance of scoring you 40 to 50. And I think that's still the case.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Big talking point, mate. Isaiah Yongi, 30, but played the first half. For the most part, had a really nice catch and pass, catch, draw and pass on the right edge. That looked really nice and what you'd expect from a good or a decent fullback in the NRL. But look, I mean, he's pushing a case to obviously start with him from a SuperCoach perspective. But I tell you what, Joash Papali'i with 105 SuperCoach points in this game looked the far better fullback in this one. So it just depends on what Jason Riles is going to do. I think he starts with the Yongi. I think that's always been the plan. But I tell you what, if Joash Papali'i's on the bench in the 14 in round 1, I'm a little bit less sold on a Yongi moving forward because there's every chance he could step in and the Yongi could be benched.
I'm still not. Like, Iongi seems to be favoured there, and I think you're going to try and get up and out of him after, say, round 6, once he hits that sort of 400K, and you can, stepping stone him to somebody else there anyway. He's going to get the season to start. If Parramatta starts slow, I don't know if they'll just go a guy like, Joash. I don't think. It's hard to know. I think it sounds like he's got the keys to the city, Iongi.
I reckon Papali'i's honestly too good to be out of this team. I think you have to have him in the team. I think he has to be on the bench. Whether he, plays that kind of utility 14 role, Lyle thinks he might be playing a bit of a Wishart role, like from the Storm last year, which again, is very SuperCoach points conducive. Is he going to go and, spell Hands at hooker? Can he jump into the back line? If there's an injury, he can spell Yongi whenever he needs to. Like that, there's a little bit of concern there for me that happens. So for me, yeah, there's risk with going with Yongi now. But I tell you what, I've done a few drafts with him, and everybody in the WhatsApp will know this. I love my squad with him in it. With what you can free up and what you can actually do and the amount of depth that you can have across your squad with the not lack of cheapies, but just lack of certainty around round 1 starting cheapies. It's something to consider. So we're going to have to think pretty hard about this. But, mate, do we even need to talk about Kelma Tuolangi and how fucking amazing he was the other night?
No, he was pretty good. He's I ragged you out a bit earlier. I won't give you a broken clock is right twice a day. Fuck off. So, Kelma Tuolangi, that's quite hammer from the NBL podcast. But look, Kelma Tuolangi, you were pushing the Hands agenda. I don't think that's on, but Tuolangi looks great, and I get it. Early on, I just didn't believe it because I know that we've got your Cartwrights there. I know you've got your Mattos there. But, I mean, Tuolangi just looks great there. And playing the same role as Cardi last year that we were all on the Cardi party, 660K at some stage last year. Like, I think that's in the realms if Tuolagi gets that spot.
Oh, look, every chance. You know, for me, I'm actually really surprised that Tuolagi ended up on the right edge and not the left, which is even better for me personally, because now he's right next to Mitchell Moses. And the last two right edge back rowers that featured outside Mitchell Moses' right hip, Isaiah Papali'i in 2022 averaged 79 SuperCoach points, and Bryce Cartwright over the last two seasons has averaged 62 and 57. So for me, anybody outside Mitchell Moses is going to be used. He loves the short ball to his edge back rower through a gap. For me, I mean, I think Kelmer could. My hot take was that Kelmer could average 60 plus. It's hot for a reason because, you know, it's a bit of a stretch, but I think there's I reckon there's every chance he could average 55 this year. And for me, that's 15 points of value. You know, thanks for coming. I think he's a lock to start.
Yeah, me too. And in a world where I'm trying to save some money in some of my players, getting a 400k guy like this that I can comfortably start is a no-brainer, and he should be higher owned, I think.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the next game, mate. We've got the North Queensland Cowboys getting absolutely drubbed by your friends, the Dolphins, just a little bit up from you. How do you feel about this one, mate? What stood out for you for the Cowboys, first of all? You got two Queensland teams going against each other. I'm sure you would have loved to watch. I'm sure you would have liked both to lose, but that's impossible, unfortunately. What did you see from the Cowboys?
Not much. I wanted to see Robert Derby, and I saw him do stuff, so that's always good. Any team captained by Cohen Hess in 2025, I'm not super interested in watching. Any question marks about Carl Lawton taking minutes off Reece Robson has been answered. It's a no from me, dog. And yeah, Thomas McKaylee will probably play that bench role, and I don't think we need to talk about the Cowboys.
Not even fucking close.
Not this Cowboys team. Like, this is offensive to the NRL that this was on TV.
There were 16 players that aren't even in SuperCoach at the moment that played for the Cowboys out of the 28 or 20 out of the 24. 16 out of the 24 players aren't even in the fucking app. So shout out to Todd Payton for just completely wasting us and the Dolphins' time. In saying that, the Dolphins, I mean, clearly they saw that the Cowboys were naming their fourth string team. So they've gone, you know what? We'll try and beat you by naming maybe 3 or 4 first graders, but that's where it stops because they've gone and done exactly the same thing. We see Donahue got 86. Max Fiene, who's just been signed by the Dolphins, wanted to hit out. He gets 39. Jake Averillo, who's been playing centre the last few years, named in the 6 at 42. Sean O'Sullivan with 71. But aside from that, mate, Mason Teague, maybe someone to watch moving forward. 47, but fuck me, this could have been the game of this. You would have wasted the 2 hours of your life if you watched this game.
I'm so sorry for all the people that turned up to watch it outside of the families of the people that'll play their only NRL game. Shout out to Jeff Teague's brother for getting a run, but yeah, it's like they were just opening the bag, and Jake Averillo's just walked over and grabbed the first jersey out like you do at like rep basketball carnivals or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, I'll wear number 6. That's cool, but yeah, we can probably gloss over this. I was putting the kid to bed and I missed this, so I went back. I turned off all socials and went back to watch it from the start. And I got about 20 minutes in and I gave my missus the remote and said I'd rather watch a romantic comedy. So,
You know what? You've done pretty well to make it through 20 minutes, if I'm completely honest. This is a 5-minute job.
It's about 18-0.
Yeah, this is a 5-minute job, I reckon, and I was done. But to be fair, most of the trials this week, I only watched the first half. And then I saw who started in the second half. Most of the guys fucked off. The main first graders, I just turned it off and put it on something else. Or because my 2-year-old was saying Marshall Chase on the TV because he loves watching Paw Patrol. And yeah. I was happy to watch Paw Patrol after that. You know, I'm more than happy to watch Ryder and these dogs run around. So probably a better show than these two put on.
Toowoomba local Jordan Lip got a run in this one. Jeez.
There you go. He got 50 too. So nearly top scored off the bench. Good on him. Let's move past this game very quickly. We've got the New Zealand Warriors and the Storm in this one, mate. Look, for me, the Warriors are a very Supercoach relevant team this year, right? We're looking at Luke Metcalf. We're looking at Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Ali Leotow fucking looked incredible the other night. How good was he? Honestly, 103. This bloke looked like, I don't want to throw any disrespect to a player, so I won't compare him to an all-time great. But I'll tell you what, he looked very good, like way too big for anybody on the park. But the problem is they played against Melbourne Storm's fucking fourth grade team. So there's not really much you can take from it.
It's not, but I mean, just watching these New Zealand players and who they favour and how they've at least fielded a great team every week, I respect them for that, which allows us to make a little bit more of an idea. Like, yeah, Ali Leotow was running it. I think it was someone I didn't know. Oh, Williamson there. It wasn't at Jennings, but Ali Leotow is Ali Leotiti's nephew. Yeah. And and you can see it in him. Like, the guy is a jet. I am super excited to see how his career unfolds. I'm so sad that he's $500K. Like, you can legit get RTS for the same price. If he was just coming into the equation and he was $200 or $300K, I'd be more excited. I think any question marks about CHT or Tamari Martin or anything like that is out the door. Tamari Martin will be playing in the 6. CHT won't be there, and RTS on the wing is something I can get around.
100%, absolutely. I mean, he scored a double. It was 36 to fucking nil in 30 minutes. So obviously RTS, everyone was maybe looking at RTS's base stats and saying, oh, he wasn't really doing much, right? Like, oh, what happened with RTS? He didn't make many runs or many tackles or whatever. Of course he fucking didn't. They were standing around under the posts waiting for the goal kick for the most part of the first half. So for me, I think, one of his tries was without a line break. So technically, most of the time it's going to come from a line break. So you add another 10 on there, 12 on there. For me, I think if we can get anywhere between 60 to 70 out of RTS as an average for the season, I think you're picking him up at 553 to 53 average. That's an absolute bargain to start the season.
It's keeper. That's keeper status.
100%.
Mate, I know that your voice is down, but I want you to talk about Aaron Clark, and I know he's been one of your guys, and Mve Muga, if we're looking at the forward pack.
Look, for me, the one thing I was looking for Aaron Clark was whether he shared the field with Dylan Walker. And he did for a small period of time. He only played 30 minutes in this game for 37. So for me, I'm looking at the PPM, I'm looking at the involvement, and I'm looking for him to share the field with Walker when he comes on in the 13. And it looked like Aaron Clark moved to prop for a very small period of time before he went off. That's enough for me. I think we've seen that 2 weeks in a row now where Aaron Clark's PPM's been great. We know that he averages more at lock when he's starting than he does when he comes off the interchange and plays exactly the same minutes. He plays a different role. So I think the way that Webster's been talking about Aaron Clark being in a very similar mold to Tohu Harris, I think there is every chance that Aaron Clark is an absolute lock at 300, or didn't change the price, 390K I think he is. For me, 100%. He's in my team and he's my front row forward 3 at the moment. But that is because I do have a fair bit of depth throughout my team because I don't have 3 gun fullbacks. But that could absolutely change. And I think Aaron Clark would be a guy you comfortably start with in the 2RF. In terms of Valmarga, very quickly, 42 points. He's looked really good. And I think the offload is the one thing where his points are going to come from. Looks like he loves to free the arm. He's been named to start on an edge and then been dropped back to the bench, which tells me that there's every chance Webster probably sees him in a similar role coming off the bench from round 1 onwards and wanted to see what he looked like coming off the bench, filling in that role. So for me, I'm more than happy to start with both, to be honest. It's only the early buy that is the concern for me. So you just got to make sure you don't load up on way too many Warriors, and I've got 4 at the moment, so that's probably the max that you'd want to have, I think.
Yeah, I think if you're getting Valmarga, though, you're never really relying on him to play, though, and you probably don't have, you've got Clark in a different role in there. So I think having those two is not gonna affect you too much. I don't even really want to talk about Melbourne too much. Like,
What about Stefano?
Stefano.
So
Okay, so I think he played 40 minutes for 46, and that's at a 1.1 ppm or something along those lines.
Yeah.
If we weren't gifted like a bloke like Tino or some of these other or like Terrell May, sorry, the big one there, I would be looking at Stefano normally as my front row forward one at that price. Could be a set and forget. A bit of a concern that he plays there in New South Wales, but if you just want to lock in a front row forward that I don't think you're going to have to swap all year at a discount, I think honestly, I think for this team, it's a very big discount as well. You could just add Stefano and not worry about him all year. And I think that that's fair.
Look, I can't argue against it, to be honest. I think when we see 46 in 40 minutes or in the first half, 520K you're paying for him, you're paying it about at 50. And I think you're probably going to get closer to 60 average than 50 this year for Stefano. But it's hard to say. I mean, look, we don't know what the actual forward rotation is looking like in this game. It's a bunch of nobodies for the most part. So, I mean, Varlepu looked pretty good. I think he's a quality player, 30 points at basement price or nearly basement price. So he's one you can watch. But I think, Stefano's the guy. Yeah, Stefano's the guy in this one, mate. But there's not much else to talk about. So let's move on to the next one. We've got the Souths and the Manly Sea Eagles, 34-24. Manly were the victors. Now, we'll start with the Souths, mate. Isaiah Tass played at centre, not on the wing, and that kind of goes against reports that we thought that Isaiah Tass was going to end up starting on the wing this year in replacement of Alex Johnston, who's out for the first few rounds. And for me, I mean, if he was on the wing, I'd be interested, but I'm definitely not interested at centre. So there's not much going on there. But what did you think of Lewis Dodd? Because he's the one that's been a pretty popular halfback 2 option, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been in my team at times, and I watched a lot of Super League highlights. Unfortunately, not having enough hours in the day, I can't go watch every Super League game as well as every NRL game either. I think it'll be exciting to watch in a really good NRL player. I'm just not sure next to Cody Walker whether... And Cody Walker's 35, so I'm not saying ever, but I just don't think he's going to be that SuperCoach relevant. I think he's going to be good for these guys. And he's going to do enough, and it's going to be exciting, and he's going to score the odds 60. Think somebody, if Souths are going fantastic, think like Ben Hunt. Like at his best, he's really only a 530K player still. Even Renault in his prime wasn't the best out there. I think that he's somebody that will be there for a long time and will score mediocre. But at this point in his career, coming into a new team, I have little interest unless there's no other cheapies.
Yeah, fair. I think that's fair enough. I mean, also with the fact that we've got the young Cowboys half that will be at bottom dollar, Tom Duffy, that probably comes in and starts. I think that, you'd be silly not to look at Tom Duffy to start the season anyway, if you're looking at a cheap halfback too. Pete Mamazelis was, I don't want to go and say that he was bad because I don't think he was. He was fine. He was meat and potatoes. It's kind of where it ended, right? He's just meat and potatoes.
I got rinsed a bit for, I wasn't saying that he's a bad player. I was kind of saying on my Instagram that, he's not the next Cook or he's not anything like that. I think he's just going to go out there and do his job, and he will make money. Of course, he's 330K, but maybe he's going to finish the year at Brendan Hand's money at 390 or something along those lines. And that's not something that I'm interested in at 330K when you've got 200K guys that I think can be average as well. Like if you want an average hooker, you just get a 200K average hooker. Pete didn't do anything like getting rinsed by a couple of, backup hookers from Manly. No disrespect to Simpkin or Gordon Chan Kum Tong. Sorry, I've got caught on that one before. But look, nothing inspiring.
No, that's right. Josh, welcome, mate. How you've had a big day. You played some football. You've watched some football. Now you're on a podcast. You're a very popular man. How you going?
Good. Hello. Can we hear myself? Just want to make sure that's nice and clear.
Yeah, we can hear you. It's a little faded, but we can hear you.
You're hearing the dulcet tones of Milson Point train station. Good to be on. Long time listener, first time call off.
Welcome, mate. You've had a big day, but I'm sure you've seen a little bit more close-up football than us today. You're at the doubleheader over at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium. What'd you see?
Saw a lot of hot boy Robert Toyer. Let me say that for free. And
Good.
I've seen a lot of poor defensive reads from Mark Malanga. So if you're a Robert Toyer truther, I would say your stocks may be on the rise.
Yeah, good. Good to know. I mean, we need him at 198K.
We need him.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do, mate. We're just talking about South and Manly at the moment. We're talking about Pete Mamazelis and getting. Well, I'd love to know your thoughts on Mamazelis. So I think he was fine for the most part, and we've just spoken about the fact that he was fine for his price. But are there better options now? Maybe specifically a Broncos hooker that we saw today.
Mate, it all comes back to Corey Takes, doesn't it? Look, I was not impressed with Mamazelis at all. I would love to know why Jamie Humphries was very late out and didn't play, but I'm sure that information will come to light in due course. But yeah, Mamazelis was not good. I think Mattrix was quite harsh on Instagram and seemed to get flamed, absolutely flamed for it. But I think it was fair criticisms. I'm really interested to see what the trial looks like next week for South, because whether Mamazelis starts or he doesn't, I'm not expecting much more than a 45, 50-minute split. And it wasn't really appealing over the weekend.
Yeah. Matty, quickly talk Manly while we've got Josh before I'm sure he hops on a train or does what he needs to do.
I can stay for as long as you want. If you want to kick me off, go for it, but I'm just walking home. So
No, cool. Let's keep you on. It's much more interesting than the three of us because it gives me a chance to go and take a piss. Matty, what did you take? What did you take from Manly?
I mean, like Lehigh Hopewadi, will be fine if Turbo misses time throughout the year. Takeaho, it was actually good to just see him back playing NRL, but I think his role will be off the bench this year, and he won't be at value. Maybe if he drops in price, and then we start to see him step up into a role due to injury or something. Takeaho, Whisperer.
Yeah, big fan from 5 years ago when he was goalkeeping.
Yeah, me too.
But no interest. But interesting to see what that forward rotation looks like when you've got guys like Paseka, you've got Sipley there as well. So they were speaking very highly of Taukeiaho, whether that's just pre-season chat, but seems to bring a lot of experience to the club. Obviously, played for his country, played for overseas as well, and has had a decent career in the NRL. So good addition, but no interest for me.
Chris Patolo, were you excited to see him play for Manly?
Yeah, as I said to Braino on the sort of the watch list podcast, going through team lists was the first time I realised that Chris Patolo had actually moved clubs. So, mate, it's good to see him run out, but again, no interest. But that's one way to get your transfer news, by looking at preseason trial team lists.
Mate, I think that does us for Souths and Manly. Let's go to the All Stars game. I'm not going to say it was a bludger because at times it had some big highlights. It was just low scoring, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to take much from an All Star game because there's just no combinations. There's no preseason. Yeah, they obviously haven't spent much time together. They all play against each other for the most part. But I'll tell you what, there's a couple of things I can take from this game, and one of them is Connor Watson. And I'm more than happy to say that I was wrong when I was not keen on Connor Watson, because I'll tell you what, he looked the best player on the park by a country mile the other night, and I think he's maybe convinced me that he needs to be in my team to start the season.
Mate, that's a bit offensive to Brent Naden. He had a blinder.
Brent Naden was good. Josh, what did you think? First of all, I know Connor Watson's been a regular stalwart in your team throughout the preseason. I guess he's maybe cemented his spot in your team now?
Yeah, I might go a little bit dark here, but you'll still hear me. Watson was interesting. Obviously, in everything, played 73 minutes had the try assist. I would have to go and check if he did get the line break assist with it as well. But still, like, past the eye test, very much so. Roosters are going to have a big pack through the middle. You're going to have Collins, you're going to have Nat White, you're going to have Stuart Wong. They still will hit Crichton and guys like Butcher short close to the line as well. So I think the try assist will definitely be there. And look, if it was hooker only, then I think we have a different discussion. But the fact that you guys know how keen I am to run double chief hooker, having someone like a Watson there, just as a bit of a security blanket, I think will come in clutch if some of these cheap hookers do shit the bed.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely 2RF to start, and then a bailout maybe if you need to get off her hands, or a Mamazellus or a Smith or whoever it be. We'll talk about Sandon Smith a little bit later. But Matty, Kalen Ponga looked fucking awesome. 24 points, didn't play many minutes, but fuck, he looked good. Probably the best I've seen him in a preseason, and I think he's come out and quoted that he is healthy and feels the best that he has in many, many preseasons. Plenty of positives there with the draw for the Newcastle Knights. I think it's hard to look past Kalen Ponga as your fullback one to start the year.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, price-wise, he might not even be your fullback one. I think he might even be my fullback 3 at the moment, trying to get Turbo and Latrell in there. But I mean, if I do have to downgrade somebody, it's not going to be Kalen Ponga. Let's just say that. I saw enough early on. I don't know. It just shows like Ponga not coming in at the end of this game and then playing Keeney there. Obviously Keeney was solely missed today in the game that I watched live as well. But I think it just shows that like Indigenous could have made a big run for this if they wanted it, like if they cared enough, and if Ponga went out there. I think what makes this Indigenous team so good is how much Latrell or somebody like that really cares about playing for it. And yeah, I mean, like Ponga wasn't running over to the coach and asking them to put him on, which I think somebody like Latrell would have done. And I think if Ponga played more minutes in this one, they would have won this one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair call. Obviously, Latrell's taking a sacrifice for our SuperCoach teams by missing this game so he can play round 1. So shout out to Latrell. But Josh, Royce Hunt, average, didn't really, stand out, didn't maybe fill us with confidence that he could be our front row forward 3 to start the year. What did you think?
Yeah, obviously it's hard to take much from old Royce the choice. He had that burner injury pretty early on, so nearly tripped over. Had the burner injury quite early, so maybe underdone for the rest of the game. Good to see him get through it, but yeah, let me tell you right now, if someone cheaper pops up with an okay or very similar role, he will not be Royce Hunt, he'll be Royce Punt.
Yeah, good shout. Jesse McLean obviously played off the bench here. He's another guy that maybe is in line to compete with his brother for that wing spot at Penrith, but for the most part, I don't think there's much else to take from these games. I'd rather talk about the club games. Say again?
Arthurs look good.
Yeah, anyway, next game. So we've got the Broncos and the Gold Coast Titans.
Speaking of the Broncos, Jesse Arthurs didn't play on the wing for the Broncos. But
broken clock right twice a day. I think I heard that a little bit earlier in this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I tell you what, his hair looked magnificent. The way it glistened with sweat once the second half come on. Like Jesse Arthurs, he was you know what? To quote Josh, he had max aura.
We will talk about sub-rate NRL players and their hair when we get to the Tigers Bulldogs game. I just want to make that known. Seeing Blake Tapp's hair in the flesh was interesting. It's
a bit of poor man Temu, Justin Bieber kind of stuff going on with Blake Tapp.
Don't call anyone Temu. You'll get rinsed on Instagram, man.
No, I don't care. That's only you that gets rinsed. I'm safe at the moment. But let's talk about your Broncos, mate. They put 50 on the Gold Coast Titans. They also had 50 points with like 20 minutes to go. So, I mean, they took their foot off the gas and basically stopped caring. But, I mean, the two watchers for me were one was Corey Pakes. He kind of got added to the team at the last minute. There was word that he was nursing an injury, so it's good to see him play some minutes, and he looked fantastic. Jack Koszewski with a 20 looked pretty ordinary for me, but Kobe Hetherington also looked quite good. So there's some positives to take from this game, but also Jack Koszewski maybe not as I don't know whether Madge is now still a believer of Goz on the edge. Sorry, I should say, but Pakes has almost locked down that starting hooker role for me. Matty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, he looked really good. They had Smoothie there as well. And I believe the plan was to have Billy start at 6, play for 20 minutes, and then come in and play 2 quarters at hooker. But they were up so much that they didn't sort of go into that. So Smoothie got a bit of an extended run. I believe Pakesy got a little bit more of an extended run due to the fact that he was just on fire. A couple of dummy half darts with a couple of tries. He played about 27 minutes for that 71 as well. More so, I think the service was really good from Corey Pakes. Everybody just seems to go out there. They were getting hit on the chest. So, look, I think Pakesy could be a go this year. Look, not really feeling, Smoothie working his way into the side. But from what I saw, man, like, Goss looked... Like, Jaden Hunt looked a lot better. Like... And it's easy to look at a score and see Goss with 20 beside him and Jaden Hunt with 45 beside him. But Jaden Hunt just looked so much better than Goss. Like, Piakura looked dangerous with the ball as well. Like, I don't know. Train the house down as much as you want. I can't really see Goss being there at the start of the year. I'm sorry. It just didn't... Like, eye test-wise, it just didn't look good.
What are your thoughts, Josh? What did you take from the Broncos game?
I didn't take much. I took that about this point in time, Mitchell Pearce is making me look like a right fool. So probably don't have a lot to add to this game. But, seeing Goss get 20 hurt my soul. Seeing Piakura play really well. Mixed emotions because, big Piakura guy. But also that means no Goss. So it's a little bit unsure. But I do know the Broncos played well. And the Titans, didn't. So that's all I can add to this game.
There was, at I think 50 minutes in or 55 minutes into the game, there was 36 missed tackles from the Titans to the Broncos 10. So for me, that's a concern. But also the fact that Kieran Foran kicked for 140 metres in play. And at the halftime break, there was 177 metres kicked in play by the Titans. So my question is, who the fuck is going to do the in-play kicking if it's Brimson and Jaden Campbell? It's probably going to be Campbell, but your options are very limited with the Titans if they go with this halfback combination or halves combination. I'm very concerned that they could struggle.
I give it 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like, Kieran Foran isn't that old. Like, Kieran Foran's younger than Cody Walker. Like, I mean, I know that they're trying to push a lot of pieces in here, and Keeney played so well last year. Brimo looked dangerous early when he got the ball. He might have played 23, 24 minutes. He looked good, and that was the only stage that they really looked like scoring early, apart from, maybe some garbage time ones. But, I mean, I didn't see much from anyone else. Like, Fafita basically come out here to sign a little bit. I would have loved to see a bit more from Verrills. Like, I actually really like Verrills when he's cooking, and I thought he might have been a chance to play some more minutes this year with Aaron Clark going, but yeah, he didn't look good.
I think the positive was that Brimson in his own or in the opposition 20 is going to be dangerous. That's when he's going to be at his best. But I think when the Titans need to make their way out of their own end and they need to play some grindy football, I don't know whether Campbell or Brimson are capable of getting them through that tough period and kicking out of their own end multiple sets in a row. And yeah, that's my concern with them is that I think that they're going to be a flashy team. I think they're going to score some points when they've got the field position, but I just don't know whether they're going to be able to grind teams out of games. And I think that's probably where their downfall is going to be. And obviously when we look at Fafita, how much good balls are going to get? Like we saw Fafita on the right and Fermor on the left in this game, which I thought was really interesting that they've swapped sides this year. I don't know whether that's a combination thing, but Jaden Campbell clearly didn't really gel too much with Fafita on the left edge, so maybe they're making a swap. What do you take from that, Josh?
Oh, I was having a bit of a thought. Like, the Titans could use a halfback. I think someone like a Tanner Boyd or Jamal Fogarty, might really be able to help them out.
Just wind back 2 years and maybe they can have that. Yeah, it's a shame. But anything else to add for the Titans, Matty, before we move on to the next one?
Not really. They were hot garbage today.
Yep, fair call. Let's move on to the Bulldogs and the Tigers. 20-14. This one was kind of close, I guess, for a trial game, but the Bulldogs definitely didn't name anywhere near their full strength squad. Maybe like 4 first graders, 5 first graders in this squad compared to the Tigers, who definitely named a stronger team. They still got the chocolates in the end, the Dogs. Blake Justin Bieber Taff got 32 in the end. Probably one of the worst haircuts I've seen in the NRL, and I've seen some bad ones. So shout out to Blake Taff for beating that standard. But I mean, Daniel Saluka Fafita's been a guy, Josh, that's been in your team, mate. Like, yeah, you've obviously seen something that maybe some others haven't. 67 today. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah, more just seeing that Tomamone is not very good, and that's all I've really seen. But no, man, he was really good. I got to watch him in person. He had this elite tackles. He had I think he had 30 tackles on the NRL on the Fox side of things, and 40 tackles on the NRL side of things. So and ran with purpose. It was coming off the back fence really well. And mate, who knows if he's coming off the bench playing 30, 35 minutes, like, it's not great, but for a power forward 4, I think you could do worse.
100%. I completely agree. I mean, Harry Hayes was also okay, but I don't know whether he finds a spot in a 17 to start. I'd be pretty confident, Matty, to say that Tomamone is probably not going to see first grade football this year unless there's a large amount of injuries at the Bulldogs. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think. Who was the guy last year that we all had? Started with P. Yeah, that's silly. Yeah, I feel like this is just him all over again.
Yeah,
and what else can he do though?
I don't know whether you got Pacifica Tonga from the Dragons who looked okay, and if he finds a spot in the 17, he's probably the most logical option at 198k. But again, I tell you what, we don't have many options at front row forward at that price.
Is there any chance Saluka Fafita has a bench spot there? Like,
I think it is
230k.
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
Yeah. Like, but you said who else? Like, he's the guy.
I think worse.
I think he's a guy.
You might have to run Aaron Clark at front row forward and just have cheap 2RFs. Like, if we get a plethora of those.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the play. I've got Aaron Clark at front row forward 3 at the moment, but that's based on the fact that I do have the depth from having Iongi in my team. So again, I might not start that way, and then that means that my structure is completely fucked. So yeah, interesting watch in terms of structure. But yeah, Daniel Saluka Fafita looks like the guy that might get that 17 jersey potentially. He's only 232k, so he's the same price as a Monet anyway, so that's a win. The Tigers. So I assume we're just all adding Solomon Tape. 116 points today, busted 2-3 tackles, 2 line breaks, couple of tries, Josh. So he's obviously straight in your team, I assume.
Yeah, of course. I don't think he scored 116 points combined last year, so it's good to see him outdo that output in one game. Now, in all seriousness, from a Tigers standpoint, I think people were disappointed with Skelton. I wasn't. He was on the weak side. Galvin ran things on the right. He was on the left. He was playing for 40 minutes. He led the team in meters. He led the team in total runs. Had that line break as well. So, I mean, if he starts, fantastic. Otherwise, it's realistically, it's probably Skelton or Liao Li. So, and he's 270k. So, I think, yeah, if Skelton starts, it's hard for me not to go with him, especially on Luai's side if he is playing on the left. But then where does Chiruba fall into it? Because he was training on the left during, a post session. So definitely something to monitor, but was really impressed with Skelton despite some people weren't. Obviously we know his defensive deficiencies and they were on full display today, but it's the good and the bad with Skelton.
Yeah, for sure. We say every year Justin Matamua should get some time and he just never does. He got 38 today. He looked fine for the most part, but I guess the only other player that was on everybody's watch was Lachlan Galvin Mattrix. And I know that Josh and I, probably as Tigers loyal followers, have Lachlan Galvin higher on our draft boards than you do. Did he change your thoughts at all this year in terms of eye test in the limited time he had?
I mean, like, I don't hate Lachlan Galvin. I hate him playing beside Luai for SuperCoach. I like Lachlan Galvin. I think that he's a really good player. He was one of my favourite players to watch last year because he was racking up SuperCoach points for my team. And I bought him at bottom dollar. But you've got Luai. Like, I just don't think he's going to get the touches. I think Luai's going to demand the ball. I think Appy's going to demand the ball. I think, Galvin's just going to be the third fiddle now. And he basically had the keys to the club last year. So I think for West Tigers to be a better team, Lachlan Galvin has to be a worse SuperCoach player. So I bet you guys hope I'm right.
In terms of Luai coming to the club, yeah, probably. In saying that, though, I think Luai can make Galvin better. So I'm interested to see what that looks like and what that combination looks like, because I think Luai can unlock Galvin. Galvin was the guy that had to do everything last year. He was partnered by fucking Aiden Caesar, for Christ's sake. Like, when you look at the team that we had last year and Galvin did what he did as a rookie in his first year of the NRL after not even playing any reserve grade coming straight out of high school, he's got nearly now one of, as Josh would quote, the best 5'8" in the world next to him. Imagine what he can do this year.
Imagine. I think I fall somewhere in between the two of you. I think he does regress, but I don't think it's like massive levels. But like if he averaged like 54, 55, it's probably where I've got him more pegged.
I was just saying he was going to regress to be worse than Luke Metcalf now.
I mean, as we know, preseason Luke Metcalf is the greatest player of all time.
Oh, Jesus walks.
We didn't even talk about Luke Metcalf at all when we talked about the Warriors, because he's that much of a lock that we just assume that naturally everyone has him, right? So we didn't even need to talk about him.
100%.
Yeah, he should be. He should be. I think someone in the comments said he should be 100% owned. So shout out to them. They know ball. Last game, Dragons, Roosters, probably the one that was on the docket for most people. You were putting your kids to bed early. You were making sure that the missus wasn't going to bother you for the next 2 hours, because you were sitting down, you were watching this game at 7:30, Mattrix. A shame for us because we were both putting our kids to bed and probably missed fucking 3/4 of it. But
I was at the Super Rooster drive-through, so
good. The big three in terms of Gutherson, Val Holmes, and Damien Cook all played about maybe 20 to 25 minutes, and then they just got pulled off. So that was them done. So it's hard to take much from that. I didn't see much of the Cook and Little combination because Little didn't end up playing. So that was a bit of a disappointment, considering that's the one thing I was looking for in this game, whether Cook played through the middle in the 13 when Jacob Little came on the field, Josh. But what did you see because you were at the game, mate? What did you see from the sideline?
Saw a lot of beers getting drunk from me.
Good.
In all seriousness, there was
about fucking time.
Mate, I think I've done my knee quite badly, so I needed to like numb the pain. In all seriousness, this game left me with more questions than answers in terms of the Roosters forward rotation. As you can see there from the graphic, the Dragons rotation, there is zero relevance from the community. No one over 5% owned. So, we have the Roosters side of things. It looks like a set of traffic lights. So I guess we could probably spend a little bit more time with those boys. Mm-hmm. But I'm on my phone, as you can tell. I don't have the stats in front of me. But I think so Rabbitohs played 59 minutes and ended up with 49 BP, which, really, really good. Mark Mwang and Nitawaze played 40 minutes and then played 25 at fullback. He looked not ready, if I'm just going to be brutally honest. You've got, Siwa Wong played really well. He played three positions. He played edge, he played middle, he played lock as well. So my reading of that is maybe he plays, that Egan Butcher role off the bench for a bit of versatility. And then it comes down to who starts out of, Nath White and Lindsay Collins and Spencer Leniu. Obviously, three can't go into two. So more questions than answers for me, really. And I guess we could probably touch on quickly Sandon Smith, had the try assist, the line break assist, and was straight arse, Supercoach-wise.
Yeah, Matty, what do you reckon? I mean, Kyle Flanagan outplayed him. Shout out to Captain Harry, who reckons he locked in his starting position. I reckon that Kyle Flanagan locked in his starting position when Shane signed at the club. But that's just my opinion. Matty, what were your thoughts on Sandon Smith, first of all?
Look, I love a goal-kicking halfback, 5'8", whatever you want to call him, there that scores 15. That's great. Good for the club too. I don't know. I think that the Roosters will be humming a lot more with their stars back, and Sandon Smith maybe scores more junk. I don't know. He's not going to be the guy at the club that's out there creating, massive amount of plays and scoring out there. But you know what? You're going to get some try assists when you pass into your Angus Crichtons, when you pass into your James Tedesco's, when you've got, a couple of targets better than Palga. I think that Sandon Smith is completely fine to be in your teams at bottom dollar. Don't panic and see 15 and rip him out of your team. He's 200K, guys. Let's chill.
Yeah, and let's just remember Ethan King's not moving the needle, is he, for the Roosters? It's going to be James Tedesco, one of the best fullbacks in the game. You've also got Daniel Tupou to come back into this team. You've got, Lindsay Collins to come back into this team. Yeah, and Lyle's spot on. He scored 20 in one play and scored 15 total. So there are definitely some base stat woes and some issues there and maybe some concerns, but that's not why we're picking him. We're picking him because he's 230K.
Yeah.
And because Hooker fucking sucks. And you can pick him at Hooker. You can pick a goal-kicking 5'8" at Hooker to start the season at 230K, which is bottom dollar. So, or nearly bottom dollar. So for me, he's a lock. You don't need to
sign me up, Eddie.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Josh.
I think the question doesn't become whether you own him or not. It's just whether you can comfortably start him. That's the only thing that's changed in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. Good point. If you're starting with him, you're probably not starting with him at 5'8" or halfback 1, obviously, but you'd be starting with him in hooker 1. So that's the question you need to ask. But maybe Corey Pakes has maybe given you a little bit of ease to that decision. Naf White, what'd you see from Naf White, mate? Because for me, he looked pretty good. He passed the eye test TV-wise. What'd you see sideline?
Yeah, so we chatted about him on the Patreon. Plug, go read it. $10 a month, less than 30 cents a day. Supports us, support you. Thanks very much. We chatted about him in the Roosters preview with a very, very niche stat. He was top 5 in tackle busts to runs ratio, and that was on full display today. Tackle busting, found it well. Played 50-odd minutes, which is nice. Scored well. I probably think he has a better chance of starting over Sua Wong. Like if you told me to name a team, tonight, I'd probably think that White is more favoured. But with White, we've always been worried about the minutes. So it's a case of maybe we get a better idea next week. But yeah, played 50-odd minutes tonight, looked really good.
Yeah, good. I think it's fair to say there's going to be more White than Wong this year. So we can leave that one there. But anything else, Mattrix, from...
Firstly, just leave the jokes to me, champ.
Fucking please, listen to him. If I could... Go on.
No, I think he'll be good if he gets the minutes. That's about it.
Yeah, there's not much else to say really at that price. Yeah, no, good. I'm glad that things haven't changed here. Look, there's not really much else to talk about on this one. I think it's more a matter of have your thoughts on players been confirmed? For the most part, yeah, we did miss the kickoff, Wayno. Sorry, he's fucking mentioned that twice now, Wayno. Sorry, mate. We were 2 minutes late. And we missed the start of the podcast, but we're here. We got here. But have your thoughts been confirmed? That is, I guess, the main thing for me is: are you coming out of this weekend thinking the same about your players, or are there now some concerns? Josh, maybe you first, mate. Anybody in your squad at the moment that you're less keen on now after this weekend of trials?
Brendan Hands for the first 20 minutes of the game, how good Riley Smith was, but then Josh Papali'i played unreal, so I'm now like, maybe I'm keen on Hands again. Look, nothing's overly dramatically changed in my mind. My primos, went well. My mid-range centre wings went well. It's probably now just a case of working out structures and working out if someone like a Centre Smith is a viable, reserve, or we have to look elsewhere. But I think next week, for anyone watching, next week is our final set of trials. We should get a better idea on how teams are going to line up in round 1. Because teams basically every NRL side, apart from the 4 going to Vegas, are going to have a bye next week, so they can probably roll out their first 13 and play them for good minutes, knowing that they're going to get a week off next week with no trial footy and obviously with the game in Vegas.
Yeah, for sure. Good point, Matty. Anybody that you're less keen on in your current squad?
Yeah, I probably solidified Pakesy for me. I just can't see a world where Goss is there. I mean, if he's still named at second row forward, round 1, like Madge kind of said, I'm probably just going to add him. But I just can't see a world where come round 5, you don't have Piakura when you've got Jaden Hunt that did a job last year that just looks better than Goss. Like, he outplayed Goss last year. And when it comes to...
I will ask you, mate, obviously as a Broncos fan, we were chatting about this maybe an episode or 2 ago. Has today, we were talking about how slim front row forward is. Has today maybe given you a better idea if Bentakura might jag a bench spot for round 1?
If who, sorry? Bentakura? I don't. I think as long as you've got... Bentakura is amazing. He actually scored this crash play try that I've seen him do in NRL 2, which looked fantastic. I don't know. I just don't see it when you've got who have you got? You've got Willisons. I just Corey Jensen isn't past it enough to fall out of the rotation, and I just don't see the minutes for Takura unless there's an injury. Is
And
probably
what about-
like this isn't
Sorry.
his year. I think he's just going to be a 400K guy next year or a 330K guy next year.
And it's fucking Marty Tapau that just keeps turning up and finding a bench spot every year on year on year. And I don't know why, like how we can justify getting a bench spot, but like I think he's genuinely in contention again to take a spot on the bench for the Broncos. I'm sure Madge is going to love his work rate. So yeah, it's they need to lean into Takura for sure. But I think that Marty is going to probably snag a spot round one on the bench, and it's going to make it harder for everybody then.
He's larger than life, Takura, too. Like, he is, what is he, 19?
He's a big
20?
boy.
Yeah. Like, he is a unit. You could see him. Like, there was a helicopter that flew over, and I think the only thing that they saw out of there was Takura. So,
yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? Josh, any final words, mate, before we wrap this one up? We'll let you go. You look like you're about to. Are you done for the night? You're about to go to bed,
No, I'm back
or is your night just starting?
No, I'm in the real world now. I'm back with a real job. So it's 6 a.m. starts, and I think a very, very injured knee. So maybe some more liquid courage to finish the night off, and then straight to bed.
Yeah, good, fair call. Matty, anything to add before we wrap this one up, mate?
no, that's it.
Lovely, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Josh, for hopping on as you walked home from the footy as well, mate. Good to have you on. But guys, we'll be back. We've obviously got plenty of content planned for the rest of the preseason. We've got, I think, another 5 positional episodes to come. We've got the front row forward episode that will drop tomorrow that we recorded, I think, a couple of days ago. So that'll drop tomorrow. So keep an eye on that. We've also got we've got week 3 of trials coming up too, plus the rest of the position episodes and a few extra fun goodies. And of course, if you're inside the Patreon, you're going to get an exclusive Q&A in the lead up to Vegas, as well as the Vegas live show. So guys, thanks for watching. Hit subscribe and like if you haven't yet. And we will see you over the next few days for the next few episodes. Catch you then.